All right. All right, Georgie, you get the gate. I'll get the dogs. We're gonna go on a big adventure walk. Come on, dogs. Now, did anybody count the number of dogs that we have at the beginning of this walk? 2, 4, 6, 8. There's a whole thing about being a dog trainer that goes out with a bunch of dogs. Every year it gets a little bit harder for me to remember what all dogs I brought out. So I had to put them on a count, you know. All right, so we're just gonna walk around and let these dogs explore some and have a good time. Basically, this is kind of the payoff for being good students all day. Go on a little bit of an adventure, a little recess time. And you know, the weird thing about freedom is like, you know, if you have freedom, then like you're not like looking for every chance to gain freedom, right? So a lot of dogs that don't want to stay with you, or you know, they don't want to come to you when you call them, you know, all they're really saying is that they're afraid they're going to miss out on something, you know. So what you have to do is you just have to convince them that you do interesting things, and that by kind of complying with your wishes, they'll get access to do interesting things also, you know. Now, I don't recommend that you necessarily go out and put this into practice unless you have a young son that's still fast and fleet of foot, that he can run off and chase them and catch them if they're, you know, if they decide to get away. But this is kind of what we do in the evenings. Come out to our pre-adventure area, let the dogs chase birds, climb on some brush piles, and just basically have a big time. You know, I really want these dogs to understand that I have their best interest at heart. And once they start to understand that I have their best interest at heart, well, I mean, they don't feel like they need to go anywhere. And I'm not saying it's just quite that simple, right? I'm not telling you just go outside and like take your dog into a wilderness area and hope for the best. No, I mean, of course, there's a lot of formative work that needs to be done. You need an objective evaluation of the type of dog that you have, of your own physical capabilities and stuff like that. But, you know, all in all, it's not that hard to find somebody in your area that goes hiking with dogs. I mean, every area in the country has people out hiking and playing with dogs, you know. It's just a matter of finding a group of like-minded people. And as society becomes more and more factionalized, that's kind of becoming more and more important, right? Is you have to find your group, you know? And that's even true here on YouTube. And back, you know, on that other video series that I'm making with the German Shepherd, you can see, just read the comment sections, and you can see like society has basically become divided between people that are doers and people that are civil and have good manners, and people that are just complainers and have bad manners, you know. And me personally, I don't even want to associate with those can't-doers, you know. I mean, I have no desire. I'm not trying to appeal to them. I don't want them watching my videos. I don't want them calling me and asking me for help, you know. I'm perfectly content with them just never even coming into my circle of friends, right? They can set over their own circle of friends and they can say whatever they want to and do whatever they want to, and I'll just do business with who I want to do business with, right? Because this is the kind of stuff that I like to do. I like to come out and I like to watch the dogs have a good time, you know. I don't like to micromanage them. I don't like to boss them. I like to come to an agreement with the dogs that we're going to go out and I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain, which is I'll make sure that we get to do fun stuff as long as the dog holds up their end of the bargain, which is, hey, Stoney, I won't cause you a lot of trouble, right? Because why? Let's just be honest. Why do most dogs like end up stuck in their crates or stuck in the backyard or in trouble all the time? It's because like the owners perceive that the dog is a lot of trouble. Right? And part of that is because owners have unrealistic expectations. Part of it is a concept called blame externalization, where if something's going wrong in the owner's life, they look to blame others. Sometimes they blame their children, sometimes they blame their dog, sometimes they blame their boss, sometimes they blame their own clientele, you know, instead of looking at themselves. And some of it is just not having an objective evaluation of, you know, what kind of dog that you have. You know, sometimes people in the comment section will ask me, hey, Stoney, why don't I see whatever kind of dog at your kennel, you know? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not reasonable to think that every dog is going to be able to come out here and do the kind of stuff that I like to do. Some of it is behavioral, right? I mean, there are some dogs that when you go out, you better be able to keep up with them because they're gone. And you know, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't walking out here with a whole bunch of coonhounds, you know, because I'd be up all night trying to round them up from all over the country, right? Okay. I'm not coming out here with, you know, like a dog that has long, fine hair. You know, because if I come out here, even just doodles, I make people when they bring doodles out here shave them pretty short, but they still just get all kinds of cockleburs and stuff in there. And I can do 1 at a time or 2 at a time, but what I can't do is like 15 at a time, you know? Like, so there's just lots of reasons you see the kind of dogs that you see here. These are the kinds of dogs I like because these are the kind of dogs that can do the kind of stuff that I like to do, you know? And ultimately, that's how I look at dog training. You know, I try to do the type of dog training that makes me happy, you know. Okay, cameraman, just back up. We're going to go up through that little trail there. Come on, dogs. Now, do we have all our dogs still? Now, what I want you to take, we're going to go up this way. What I want you to take from this little portion of the video is just that, like, you know, I'm trying to give you a couple of different looks to see what all options the dogs have. And the dogs are kind of choosing the options that I have mowed out here because me and the mentor dogs have come out here so many times on these mowed paths. We used to come out here and walk and like we just had little narrow footpaths. But then I would have people out like from the city and like they need a little bit more space. They don't like the chiggers getting in their socks and you know, and the chiggers can be a real problem. I'll maybe put a picture up here and like kind of show you. Okay, here, let's go back down this way, cameraman, because the sun is going to get your camera. But anyway, so after a while, we had these little paths out here, and me and the mentor dogs and the kids would come out here and do these paths. Then we started mowing the paths. And now, what's kind of a neat thing is that since, you know, I had kind of this unbroken cycle of mentor dogs, they come out and they basically teach the other dogs our normal transit patterns. Okay, and like it doesn't even take very long. Dogs are so good at forming habits that if you can ever just get yourself and your family unit in a good habit, most of the time the dog will just adapt. And so like if you think about like problems like housebreaking problems, or I got one going down in the creek over there because we usually go over there, but the cameraman has put the big X on follow me down in the creek anymore because she falls sometimes. All right, cameraman, you go up that way. But back to what I was talking about with the patterns. Like, you know, people ask me, they're like, Stonnie, how do you go out there without the leashes? Well, guys, I have a whole framework here. I'm not just like going into a random environment, right? I'm coming out into this environment. I'm bringing mentor dogs. The mentor dogs teach the new peer groups, you know, what patterns are acceptable. And then, like, you see what happens with, uh-oh, got a dog stuck. Come on, dog. All right, well, these videos never go exactly like you want. And so I had one dog and it kind of got over there behind my neighbor's fence and got stuck, so I had to go rescue him, right? But basically what I was saying is people ask me how I get out here and like I don't worry about the dogs running off. Well, guys, listen, it's because of patterns. You know, I take my puppies when they're young, and we come out here and we go on predictable routes and we do predictable activities. And then when we get new peer groups in, they just kind of follow the mentor dogs around. And it's not perfect, you know, like my days aren't perfect. Like right there, I had to stop the videoing and I had to go back there and I had to get Moose because Moose had got behind the fence and he got confused. And literally all he had to do was walk about 6 feet to his right, you know. But he doesn't understand about walking 6 feet to his right because like he's never been in this type of environment until he came to my kennel. But after he's walked this route another 40 or 50 or 60 times, then like he's going to understand. And the great thing about the types of trouble that we present them with here in our pre-adventure area, when we work our way out into larger, more uncontrolled environments, we've already given the dogs the ability to problem solve and the ability to generalize to a certain degree. Now, that can be a frustrating thing in the dog business, like if you go to a dog training class or you send your dog to dog training kennel, like the dog comes home and then you go out to a new environment and you expect the dog to perform the way it was with the professional trainer or the way it was in your familiar environment, and you fail to recognize that there's a certain amount of acclimation time for both you as the handler and the dog, right? And people get disappointed, and then when they get disappointed, they kind of feel stressed, and when they feel stressed, then the dogs don't mind as well. Okay, and that just happens. It happens to all of us. So like a major key in this particular video, so I wanted to show you what we do and talk to you about, you know, why we don't worry so much about the dogs running off and what the purpose of our, you know, pre-adventure area is. But another main thing is for you to understand that all the things that happen to you, it happens to us also. Right? I mean, here I am, I'm walking, and these dogs are doing pretty well, and people say, Stonnie, you know, how do you not have the leash? Well, I'm just willing to have problems. Right there. I mean, right there's a perfect example. You know, I mean, Moose got trapped behind the fence, and I had to go get him. Okay? That's just the way it is. As long as you're willing to deal with problems, and you're willing to not get so upset, okay, you're going to be okay, you know. Now, in a video I made last week, you saw I had the German Shepherd out here, and I had my doubts as to how she was going to behave. My neighbors were out working in their garden, so I had a long line on her, you know. So if you don't have mentor dogs, and you don't have a consistent area where you can practice, and you kind of have structured it so that you have environmental boundaries that funnel the dog into certain places, well, then just stick a long line on them. And stick whatever length of long line you need on the dog, right? If you're pretty fast, you can have a short one. And if you're pretty slow, you can better have a long one. But know that whenever you put a long line on a dog, there's going to be trouble, isn't it, Georgie? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of trouble, right? You put a long line on them, they're constantly getting it, you know, tied up. They'll be, you know, you see them, they'll have a stick like this, and it'll be tied up in their long line, and, you know, whatever. Okay, so don't let that little bit of trouble get you down, just like don't let, if the dog doesn't come right back to you, get you down. Guys, dog training is not perfect. People get so frustrated. Here's where you start, here's where you want to end, right? It's not overnight. It's a year or two, you know, okay? So people, like in my online course, they'll get in the journals and they'll go, you know, Stonnie, my dog's 15 weeks and like it's pulling on the leash. And I'm like, yeah, well, get used to it, you know, because that's going to happen for a while. Like, the fastest way to teach a dog nothing is to try to teach them everything at once. The fastest way to fail is to set your standards too high, to be unrealistic with your expectation for a dog's given developmental stage, the amount of time that you've put into educating it, or, and this is super important, your own talent and work ethic. I see people all the time that have expectations of their dogs that are this high, but when I look at their lives, they only hold themselves to this standard. Come on, don't do that. Don't do that with your children. Don't do it with your dogs. You know, look in that mirror. Just always think about that, guys. Whenever you're gonna, you know, think about a problem with your dog, you know, like look in the mirror first and say, what have I done to make sure that I don't have a problem with the dog running off? Have I taken the steps necessary, you know? And like if you haven't, don't get down on yourself, but get to work fixing it. Now watch, we're gonna, you know, I kind of doubled back so I could come back along the creek where this fence is to see if Moose learned his lesson. If you'll notice, Moose completely avoided the creek and he ran right back up by the brush pile, because what he's saying is he would rather do the brush pile than get stuck behind that fence again. You see, because what we're doing here, guys, I'm gonna just end it with this, but I run a giant Montessori, right? I'm the Montessori director, and I bring these dogs out, right? And my concept is learning by doing, right? So I do some formal work. Teach them a basic vocabulary. Come, let's go hup, easy, wait, and stay. I teach that on my, you know, my small challenges course, so the dog has the physical skills to go along with their vocabulary, so that the vocabulary, the behavior that they know can be expressed in a broad range of environments, right? But then the rest of the time, we're just out and we're learning by doing, you know? And it's kind of an endless cycle. You know, I train some mentor dogs, and you know, then the mentor dogs train the new peer groups. Oh my gosh! And it never is perfect. Sometimes you're going to trip and fall. Sometimes you're going to step on a dog. But all in all, like, look, guys, this is what we do. And I hope this inspires you to get out, to get moving, to be interesting, to set reasonable goals, and put in the work it takes for your dog to be successful. I'll see y'all next week.